welcome to today's video. In today's video, we will see the journey of analytics from Excel to Microsoft Fabric and how it has been evolved. But before it, let's quickly see what we have covered in our previous video, where we discussed about why Microsoft Fabric exists, and that you have to understand it at the beginning. We covered about the reality of today's data world, then the hidden pain no one talks about. We also discussed about a real business example so that you can get the clear understanding and why Microsoft Fabric was created and what Fabric is not. So before moving ahead to our next topic, let me quickly show you an image where you can see what are the tools currently exist into market. So let's see this image. You can see there are hundreds of tools existing in the market, and this is from 2023. There are many more tools introduced after the introduction of AI and Microsoft Fabric. So it is not possible for anyone to learn all of these tools, to master all of these tools, and have to be aware about which tool is best. So that's why Microsoft has not combined all of these tools, but at least from the Microsoft ecosystem, what are the tools available within Microsoft for different scenarios, like for data cleaning, for data modeling, for importing the data from sources, to transform the data. All these things they combine into Microsoft Fabric. Now coming to our next topic, which is why didn't Microsoft just upgrade Power BI and why they created an entirely new platform. So let's discuss it. Firstly, the Excel era when the life was simple. So initially, when the data analytics has been started, it was a very initial stage. Excel was there. So for a very long time, Excel was enough because data volume was very small. There was not millions of rows of data. It has been transformed after the data revolution has come. Everyone has got the access to internet. Millions of rows has been starting generated. But before that, the data was limited. Also, the benefit was that one person can handle it everything. So he can maintain the Excel file, he can create the basic reports which was required, and the files can be shared through emails. And mostly the reporting which was done using the data into Excel was also manual. So why did Excel work? Because business questions were simple. They were not looking for any forecasting, predictive analysis. They were just looking for how much sales has been done, the basic kind of KPIs which we cover in our reports. Then the data refresh was occasional. There was no requirement of live data or the data was getting changed frequently. Majorly the reporting purpose was monthly meeting or quarterly meeting or yearly meeting, and speed was not critical. So nowadays, if you see a report take 1 minute to load, client start complaining. But at earlier stage, this was not very required. So Excel was not wrong at that time. It was perfect at its time. So next we will see why Excel started breaking. So that you have to understand once again, because what is the problem occurred because of which we have to move from Excel. So as the business started growing, let's just understand by a very small example. Let's say was a franchise. Let's take an example of any Indian startup. Let's say Chai Sutta Bar. So initially they might be operating in very limited cities. Let's say Indore, Bhopal, and few cities of MP. But eventually they distributed their franchise into many other cities, and then the data grew up. So what happened? The file became heavy. There was a lot of data coming from the multiple outlets. Then multiple versions existed. Let's say one outlet sent monthly data for each month, then another outlet sent their data, and in this way multiple version was existing. And if you are creating any report using that data, and if there is any one wrong formula, then it will break everything. That was one of the major issue. And the key issues which also was there was no security. The files were sharing through email, or and also no audit trial was there. So the biggest problem was Excel could not scale with the business growth. As fast as the business was growing, Excel could not be scaled at that much level. So what happened next? How this got resolved? After this thing, when the data grew in 2013 or 2014, Microsoft Power BI came into the market, and where the visualization revolution has begun. So what happened? What Power BI brought into the market? We get a centralized reporting platform. So we can connect data from multiple sources. Let's not talk about Excel only. If the company has some SQL database, some files are in Excel, some is in Azure Blob Storage. So we can connect to all of that, and we can create a centralized report. Next is we get the option to create interactive dashboards. We can include slicers, filters, we can include different pages. Then we get the option for schedule refresh. So we can update our data on on daily basis or multiple times a day. Then one more feature which we got is role based access. So we can implement row level security where a person can see only the data, his level of access can be granted. And lastly, but not the least, a self-service analytics was there. So for analytics and for business users, for both of these, this was revolutionary. But for Power BI, it was designed primarily, it was for the reporting and visualization purpose. But after, if you think about the 2020 and after that, the data has even grown more at more fast pace. So what happened? New problem started arising which Power BI could not solve alone. What was those problem, and how do we have to deal with it? So let's understand that. Firstly, as organization matured, new questions came up. Where should data be cleaned? Earlier, that data was not large that enough, so we were doing it with the help of Power Query data. But sometimes when there is real-time data or real-time analytics have to be performed, even Power Query takes time. Who owns the data logic? That is again one of the key questions. Then how do engineers, analysts, and data scientists work together? Because the end-to-end data project is not just about the report or just about the dashboards. It includes the backend part which data engineers cover. It includes even further, let's say they have to create some machine learning model or some predictive model, forecasting model. So data scientists are also there. Everything cannot be done alone into Power BI. Then another question was how do we avoid the data duplication? Because when let's say you are using any SQL database, then you are importing that data into Power BI, another copy of data is getting created. How do we govern data centrally? So we are not able to store data centrally at a centralized location. So these are few questions which has been arising continuously, and Power BI was depending heavily on the external data warehouses. We have, let's say, if we have to create a large scale Power BI report, then we must have to create a data warehouse to store that. We have to use Azure services, separate licensing. We have to focus on Power BI licensing is separate, and the integration was bit complex. So this is very complexity. This was the complexity which exploded when the sources has been increased, the data size has been increased. Then what happened? Then after this, the Azure era came, which gave us the power, but there was too much fragmentation. Now let's understand that. Firstly, when the Azure era came, then it gave us very much new features, new options like we can scale our data, scalability was there. Advanced data engineering tasks we can perform within Azure. We can even perform real-time processing, enterprise level security we can implement. But there was a catch. What everything was separate, everything was existing into different part or different tools. Let's say we have Azure Data Factory where we can import the data or transform data. We had Synapse, we have data lakes where we can create various architecture. We can follow Medallion architecture, which we are going to discuss ahead. We had Power BI. We have to implement security layers and the monitoring tool. So even the like the complete system, Azure system was powerful, but it was not simple. So what happened? The real enterprise pain we have to understand. What everyone was facing, there was a high learning curve. Firstly, let's say if you think from an organization perspective, they have to train their developers for the multiple tools and multiple technologies. They have to train the developer for Power BI separately, for Azure services. The implementation cost was also very high, and there were too many tools, as I said in the previous point. So too many tools was there. So managing them was another task, and the slow onboarding process were there. And again, data silos was there just in the cloud. Earlier we were storing data on the local machines in the local servers, but now we have to create copies into cloud section. So business users felt lost, analysts felt dependent, and engineers felt overloaded. So now coming to our main point where why Microsoft Fabric makes sense. This is the key point which we have to discuss. So this is where Microsoft made a strategic decision. Instead of saying, let's say here is another services we want to introduce. What they did, they unified everything. And that unified decision is resulted into the name of Microsoft Fabric. Fabric is not a replacement of any tool or any technology. It is just an integration of lessons which we learned from Excel, from Power BI, from Azure or from the enterprise data platform. So think of it like this. Earlier, just with a basic example, we will understand. Earlier, Excel was a bicycle, Power BI was a car, and Azure was an airplane. All powerful, everything at their particular point was very nice, but parked in different locations. So what Microsoft Fabric did is they created an airport where everything can be parked all together. They can be connected to each other. So this is about Microsoft Fabric, why Microsoft Fabric makes sense in this complete evolution. And just in basic term, if I summarize everything which we have covered, so basically all the tools at their particular time was best of their time, but what there was some problem occurring with the growing size of our data, with the tools and technologies coming up every new year. There was something new. So Microsoft, what they Microsoft did, they integrated everything into a single place, and then give us that feature to do everything onto a single platform. So basically this is Microsoft Fabric, and in our next video we are finally going to answer the big question and understand it deeply, that is what exactly is Microsoft Fabric, and then we are going to cover what are the core components of Microsoft Fabric and how beginners can learn about it or think about it. So this is all about this video. Don't skip the next video because it is the founding of everything ahead. It is the foundation of everything which we are going to discuss ahead. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video. And if you have any feedback, any suggestion, feel free to drop into comments. And I have also shared the links to the courses and also to my LinkedIn profile, so you can reach out to me anytime. And I've also attached the link for our WhatsApp group, WhatsApp Telegram community, so you can join there and ask your questions, share your knowledge, and be the part of the Fabric community. Thank you so much for watching once again. See you in the next video.